Good evening, everyone. Welcome to God's Way YTVY, the spiritual viewpoint. And I'm Thomas Knights Templar, your host tonight. And sitting in for Aldefina, who is indisposed, I would say. Okay. Is Josephine LaRocco. Tell a little bit about yourself. Josephine, I want to say Joanne LaRocco. Wow. I told you the drugs were good in the 60s. Tell her.
Well, I am a life coach, intuitive life coach, and energy healer. And basically, I just make people feel good. So that's what I do.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
And to your right.
Hello, I'm Christine Schiavone. I am the host and producer of my show, Spiritual Exploration, which is on
Right after
Spectrum, right after your show, on Spectrum and Fios on Friday night. And your show comes on at 9 o'clock, and mine comes on at 10 o'clock. And I'm also on at YouTube. If you go to Spiritual Exploration, I got about 100 shows there from past years that you might want to look into and see.
Anything
Thank
else?
you. That's it.
Okay. And Stephen, tell them who you are.
My full name.
Okay, I'll get this right this time because I have been told I get it wrong.
Because you wrote it phonetically.
Oh, is that nice? Popiotek. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Damn, I'm going to play lotto tomorrow. Yeah, Stephen, tell them about
Well,
yourself.
it's good to be back again on the show with you guys. Yeah.
We always have a fun time.
Joanna, first time. Great.
Get your name wrong, too.
That's okay, Joanne. It's
Joanne.
fine.
Oh, Joanna, all
You
right.
were close, like hand grenade.
Glad you ate to it.
That's okay.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm a metaphysical teacher. Cosmic shaman is a system I basically developed, which incorporates a lot of different traditions together, along with some channel material that I've been working on for a number of years. I work a lot with the angelic kingdoms and with a lot of the higher positive galactic beings that I also channel for people and communicate with. I also cover a pretty wide range of topics, which will be interesting to see today as well.
check out YouTube, and you'll see him on several topics on my show.
Yes,
Yes.
very true.
This was a cheap plug.
Yeah. And other interviews there, yes.
Okay, anyway. So, Stephen, tell us about this. Our topic tonight is, what was it again?
Timeline exploitation.
Yes. And it came out explorations, but that's okay.
I'm sure they can modify.
Another near miss. All right, Steve, give us a little heads up on what that is.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of, just in terms of a little bit of background, we've also discussed some of these topics in prior shows too, in terms
Yes.
of looking at our evolution, in terms of the planetary ascension process, humanity's evolution, and how there are competing factions, of course, on the darker side and left-hand path, who wish to obstruct, deter, diminish, or delay that process of our natural ascension from the third chakra to the fourth chakra on a planetary level. And so a lot of these groups are working both on an esoteric level and technological level to try to exploit the masses in very clever ways, to try to use our own kind of power of co-creation, which is increasing at this time against ourselves, to try to manipulate our own free will and have our focus go towards more meaningless situations, or
That's
in a way,
right.
fear porn scenarios, basically,
Yes.
which are created on the public stage and social media and different
Because they're using all of this stuff as deception. It's
Deception and distraction.
It's distraction and it's diversionary to keep you from your path. And they do this all the time. They try to do this to me left and right, and with these stupid little things that they troll on your path. And this one did this, and this one's sick, and who had this, and who had that. Please.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
And that's what it comes back. It's a diversionary tactic. And in the line of work that Stephen does is real high echelon information. There is a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and a lot of it perpetuated by our own government, and he'll explain more about that. Go ahead, Steve.
Or more like the deep state, I should say, than our traditional government. Half the government doesn't know what's going on, really.
Well, actually,
Even
that's
themselves.
true. There's a government behind the government.
Yeah, for sure,
You know.
for sure. It's more like the career politicians and career intelligence agency individuals that are oftentimes connected to the military-industrial complex, the higher-level corporations that have been around.
Corporations, yes.
That transcend any kind of accountability or congressional oversight. These are the ones, the hardcore players that have been around for generations, and and benefit off manipulating policies on grand scales, for their own pockets, as well as for higher agendas to serve their own overlords.
You said the right word,
Yeah.
overlord.
It's very true. Very true.
These people have zero respect for anything God.
Oh, for sure. It's usually the anti-energy.
They'll find out.
They're soulless. They're soulless beings.
For sure, and as part of the understanding of like the evolutionary process that's going on both on a grounded physical level, where we're developing new DNA strands, and these particular people in power have been monitoring that since at least the 60s, have been aware that certain people are coming in with extra strands of DNA. Aside from on a more metaphysical level, there are different esoteric organizations, there are different like dark covens that have a lot of that basically work for the Illuminati and these higher level or organizational structures that are basically in control of what you can call the system.
Right.
The basic system of control. That has manipulated so many events on a grand scale, and so they have their tentacles in all different areas of industry and society, and work psychologically, economically, militarily, politically, and at an esoteric level.
Right.
Try to ground more of their false eye or false third eye agenda.
False third eye.
Yeah, to keep people more in hypnotic kind of lock into
They block
into timelines that suit more of their agenda.
They're using them holograms on them.
So many things. And this thing is that they're getting more creative and clever because on a bigger scale they're losing. And the Earth is shifting, the Earth is evolving. There are new amazing energies coming into the planet. But the problem is that these groups they've created certain types of grids, which is kind of in a way part of like the idea of like the matrix of control. The different types of artificial grids that are created technologically and esoterically by humans and also by various minions in the inner planes. Some are demonic, some are of extraterrestrial origin, and they kind of work together to create these energetic kind of frequency fences to try to cage in consciousness in different areas as a way to corral our ability to
Differentiate.
to be able to differentiate what is real and what is illusion, and also to keep people under the illusion that we're still in the same old way that things worked before. It's
No.
the idea of keeping people in the loop in order to try to create more of like the maze, to keep us in like the daze.
So who all is doing this?
Well, that gets into like a more larger question in terms of Illuminati aspect. From people that from all the years of research and people that I've known on the inside of some of these organizations, they've also told me that there were basically 25 families.
I've heard.
25 families that also appoint 8 other groups, so that you have that alternate in time. So they always have the number 33. So some people in conspiracy movement always talk about 13 bloodlines, but no, it's 25 bloodlines plus 8 groups to make 33. They're obsessed about the numbers in numerology. So 33 is about the capstone, right? Think of the eye of the pyramid, the eye of the dollar bill.
That's right.
It's also the Christ consciousness. But
That's
if you go
right.
either way, it's about like
They use the Christ consciousness as deception.
twisting.
They
it.
want to make I hate to use the word, but I call them drones because they haven't awakened yet. And they want to
Muggles?
keep, the mulags, whatever you used to call them in that movie, the time machine there.
Oh my
you know?
God.
So they try to dumb you down, and they want to keep you in that mode so you don't question things. And if you notice the stuff that goes on right now today, you wonder how can the people not see that what they want to do is so wrong.
Yes.
It's like the more sensational they can get against morality, they step forward and do it. Even this governor we have, he should be run out of town on a rail. All right,
It's
but
called Empire
that's
State for a reason.
well. There you go.
Some things are out in the open.
It's like Sodom and the west coast of Gomorrah. So anyway,
the
not to
mayor's
get
not
so
any
puritanical.
Of course.
But let's get back on topic. Okay.
Speaking of the Empire State, there's also other videos of me online where I go more into detail about part of my backstory, which I'd always recommend some of the viewers to watch There's a video back in the day in 2014 that James Rinka did of me, which basically goes more into my backstory of my harassment that I had from the National Security Agency and a few other groups that started back in the 90s and still going on in different ways now. But it kind of culminated in an abduction I had upstate in New York at one of their underground bases, which I didn't really start talking about until 2014, publicly at least. And that's kind of a part of like a longer story, but it is tied into it because what a lot of people don't understand in mainstream is that if you start looking at some of the basic things, like the way the CIA has declassified a lot of documents over the past few years, and like millions of pages of documents have been declassified.
What about the millions that
UFOs?
didn't, that had
Well,
the real
that's-
truth on it?
Well, that's the point. But the point is that you can start to extrapolate from some of like the data sets and points that are out there to start to build up a case to understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, when I'm talking about MK Ultra and the mind control technologies that were back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it never stopped. It just got more covert and more
I had a
organized.
friend call me today. She lives down near McGuire Air Force Base.
Oh, interesting.
Okay? She turned around and says to me, Tom, she sent me a picture. It's like 20 jets. They look like jets anyway. But they're way up there and not a sound. Guys, keep it down, please. And not a sound. Okay? Wow. Okay? Go ahead, Steve.
No, sorry. What did they look like? You said they look like,
They were flying over. They were birds. I don't know.
were they like the black ones? Like
No.
the
Well,
black
yeah.
ones?
Yeah. Well, you couldn't really see, according to the picture I saw, you couldn't see it, but there was no identification on it. But they were silent.
Oh, okay. Were they triangular ones?
They looked like a Delta Wing jet.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. However, there was zero sound to them, but they were leaving trails. You know.
Speaking of something that is not silent.
Wow.
Left
Sorry
to
for the
right,
information. Right? Wow. They must be hitting us with that harp. I'm telling
Too
you.
funny.
So what do you think about this?
I love it.
You love it?
Yeah, I do.
Well, ask him a question.
Well, we're still going in there. Yeah, it's kind of.
I'm just listening to his.
You
to
see,
what he's
I
saying,
told you
and he-
about
and he
the-
goes so fast that I'm trying to keep
I
up.
told you.
I know, but
I'm
you
on
go,
like quarter
you go,
speed
I'm
right
like,
now. Or third speed.
Well, he
Steven
really
doesn't
gets going.
need
He could do a 3-hour
questions. He
program
just
in
keep
15
talking.
minutes.
he's so interesting.
That's
He goes
right.
from
That's
one
right.
to the other. I love
Yes.
it. Yeah, he's good.
I'm
glad
trying
you
to start a
do.
line here a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
Okay, back to
Well-
our show. Yes, Steve.
Some of like so as I started mentioning before, some of the things I've undergone earlier in like in late '90s, '97 actually, when that was basically the first time I was teaching. I'll give a little bit of background story, then we'll go more into the current line because
Okay.
it does connect together. Again, it might be helpful if people get a little more of an overview.
An overview of the background.
Yeah. So how
Well, you know
how it
what?
connects.
Explain it so that lay people can understand it.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sure that we're kind of lost.
Yeah, well, that's why I said maybe it's helpful to give a little bit of background first on my story, and then I can plug my story into the current agenda that's going on a little bit to make a bridge.
Good. Yes. Okay.
Back in the early '90s, basically, I remembered how to look into the sun for long periods of time. This is way before sun gazing became a thing that was
I know, and that was like the coolest thing.
And yeah, and originally when I first started doing that, this is back, I would say back in '92 and '93, and
Wow.
aside from the free radicals that abound. When I remember how to look into the sun, there were these tall golden androgynous light beings that had come down. I've talked about this thing in some of the shows before.
Yeah, I remember.
On your show, and it was very, very profound, very beautiful, tremendously powerful experience that exploded my heart chakra, my third eye, and these beings said that they were from the sun, that they lived on the stars, and that basically there are higher star beings that live on
That's
like
right.
6th and 7th dimensional level and above.
Are they
That's right.
called, do they have a name?
This particular group called themselves the Golden Solar League of the Solar Legions. Yeah, and that there were like galactic star legions as well. They're higher dimensional, like androgynous light beings.
Because you know what it is, Steve, everybody thinks that, like you'll take, for instance, how could it be beings on the sun? We can't even get close to it without frying it.
Yes.
They don't understand that interdimensionally,
Yeah.
the heat of the sun doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
There's a porthole right through the heart of the sun that your ships come in through there.
Yeah.
That's so we can't detect them. And
Yeah,
it goes
because-
through a microwave field.
No, exactly, and the thing is that because we're not dealing with physical beings, we're dealing with souls that evolve their consciousness to understand more of unity and more of the unified energy of like the one infinite creator. I think very much like angelic type of energy.
All
But
those-
on that level, so their presence, their beings are creating part of the plasma that we experience, and part of the solar flares is actually coming from these beings as well. And that it is more like a vortex or a chakra in the body of God, stars are.
That's
it's
right.
not just balls of gas and plasma. That's like saying that we're just made of a body of chemicals. The scientists are ignorant on the third dimensional level because they're only looking at physical phenomenon. So as foolish as to say that we're just made of physical bones and ignore our soul presence in the body, the same
Because they
occurs.
want us to
Yeah.
believe that we are beings of the five senses
Exactly.
and of the ego. Okay? When you learn to shut that little voice in your head, all right, that tells you can't do this, you can't do that, you want to do this, that's not true, don't be friends with him. When you learn to shut that thing down, okay, then you start the path to enlightenment. All right, the path to enlightenment is called the ascension. And if you want to start the path to ascension, I would suggest that you get with somebody who actually knows metaphysics.
And the energy coming from the sun is part of our natural shift in the planetary level. It's part of the ascension process, which we
Yes.
also talked about
Yes.
in previous shows. And our body's ability to assimilate that solar energy is going to become more and more important as we also get closer to that vibration of the heart chakra and the new DNA, which is evolving. So the thing is that a lot of these
Well,
organized groups.
let me take a moment for a second. He's not there.
What do you want to do?
I just want to show him the chakra system so they
Oh.
can see it. Richie,
Starting with basics, really.
I know it's real basic.
Hopefully our
Okay.
viewers are a little more advanced.
Zip in on this.
I'll imagine that there are people who don't know what
That's what I'm
chakras
going
are.
to show right now.
Right, you know, a
Viewers
lot of,
joining us.
you'd
Bring-
be surprised
Brian,
how
bring
many
that in,
people
please.
don't.
Bring it in tighter.
New viewers.
Yes,
All right,
not
that's
only
good.
new viewers, but just many people, period.
Now, that's not
How
just
many
the
people
person
have said
standing
that
there
to
with
me? No, I don't know.
colors going down his body. What that is called a chakra system. You know, from above your head, through your body, and below. There's a lot of chakras on the body that are cellular, all right? But that's more advanced knowledge to know about that. But these are the main
microphone wasn't even
chakras
turned
that
on?
everybody talks about. It wasn't on? Oh,
Hopefully they picked up my voice. You just pressed the button.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That took a while to figure out. Hopefully it still came through. And
What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
it's like early
This
Mercury
whole
retrograde.
They do not want us to touch on this subject.
That's it, yeah.
They do not want us to touch on this
Spirits
subject.
working,
We'll start-
trying to work
Start
against
getting
us.
more hot areas.
Yours on?
There's a light on, so
That's
it must
good.
be.
The light wasn't on before.
All right, there's a light on.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
So yeah, so exactly, and in terms of the chakra idea too, just making a short bridge with the energy of the sun, of course, is full spectrum love and light coming from the creator realms to basically create an environment which we can even have discussions like this, right? It gives us the foundation of life, and not just physically, but the sun is a doorway, as he's saying, to many other higher realms of unified consciousness, in which we can bond with other beings that exist in higher realms. And it doesn't judge us; it shines unconditionally on everybody. It's up to us to be able to open up and prepare our bodies and our psyche to receive that light. So when I first started doing the work with the solar beings, at that time I had heard that there were these. I was also very involved in, or very curious about the UFO movement. And back then, this is before the internet, of course. So when we first heard about like black helicopters that used to harass people that were like UFO abductees, I was always very curious about that.
Those guys.
Oh yeah, this is
Two
the
of
thing.
them.
This is more recently, probably too. Yeah.
We had Buzz My House, no markings.
Yep. Recently.
Yeah, recently.
That's the thing. So this is what I kind of realized in the beginning. That started with me, where I kind of invited these groups in on a higher level because I wanted to understand what was the technological parameters behind the so-called these black, whatever agency at the time I didn't know was using these black helicopters. I said, I wonder if they can pick up on the presence of these solar beings that are coming over my place. And this is in like Newark, New Jersey, so it's pretty heavy energy there, especially back then. So, opening up this like light portal to the higher realms in the middle of the abyss,
So light beams might have got mugged.
Exactly. Oh my God. So
it was a tough place.
That was bad. That was bad. So normally they would put this golden solar like dome over me as kind of like a geodesic dome for privacy and protection. Now I said, what happens if I decline that and let anybody that has sensors to see? So, the guys were like, you sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm a cocky 21-year-old at the time. Let me do that. So I feel them lift up the dome of energy. Then 10 minutes later, I feel something watching me, and I have my headphones on, and a black helicopter comes. And I was like, no way. I never seen one of those at that point.
Wow.
So I was like, that was fast. 10 minutes into it, the technology picked up on it. So, of course, I wanted to keep testing it to see if it was actually, happening for me
Of course it was
specifically.
going to happen.
But
you didn't know that then.
I mean, I didn't realize the ramifications of what that would mean long term for me. Let's put it that way. But so I was like, all right, let's do it again. So second time, again 10 minutes. But this time, a state police helicopter comes, and then a black helicopter comes. So I was a little confused about that. I'm like, what's this cooperation between
Were
the
you
two?
speeding when you were walking?
I was on the rooftop.
On the rooftop.
Of a building. And then like third time, I go down the stairs faster, like 7-minute mark. And this time the black helicopters literally looks like it's about to land on my building. That's how low it was. And I was like, wow, they have balls, these guys coming that low. So let me go outside. We're in the car. My dad was driving me to work at the time in Newport Mall back in the early 90s. So we're stopped at the red light. Black helicopter comes literally like a few stories above the car, like flying over us. And then get to the mall. My security guard friend said, oh, we have these strange black helicopters flying over the mall today. And I'm like, oh, they're great. They're following me literally to my job each step of the way. So I was like, oh my God, what do they open up here? Pandora's box. So it
Put
happened-
that thing back on.
Exactly. So it happened 6 times before I finally put the dome back on. So it stopped literally like that, but because they already knew who I was, it was a little too late.
Because you were
You know?
receiving energy that they were picking up on with their ETs.
Exactly.
And
So
they were already knew
yeah.
that you were one that was coming out and advancing.
It's like monitoring basically people that are in contact with either extraterrestrials or higher dimensional beings. Yeah.
So they're doing this all now.
Because they want to understand that dynamic and what's going on and why the interest is there and what makes it function, how people can do this, so that they can learn how to militarize it and cut people off from it.
That's
is
right.
basically. So because they're terrified of losing control of the system, that they have of our society, of the old paradigm. So the level of psychological warfare, information warfare, takes on whole different dimensions of understanding both psychology and parapsychology from their point of view, so that they can understand how to try to nip some of these things in the bud to give their own agendas more longevity.
Well, they basically want to take us and blind us.
Exactly.
They want to divert us so much that we don't do the stuff we have to do. They throw all this nonsensical 3D nonsense in our path.
Yeah.
What do they have to gain by that?
Control.
Yeah.
Ultimate
Oh,
control.
yeah, totally. I mean, because also you have to understand a lot of these people that are working on these higher level covert organizations, of course, there's light workers that have infiltrated every group because light is going to win.
That's right.
But the thing is that it's a bit of a game of strategy and chess between that point and now. And so a lot of the darker.
It's just that they've been ensconced in this world for so long, that they don't want to release what they have gained up until now.
Because they're also serving very dark ascended beings, as part of their
Well, they're
larger
being
agenda.
Those beings are being assimilated into the light now. Now
Some of them
they're being given the choice.
I'm gonna say yes, it's right, but a lot of them are, some are definitely should, but a lot of them are still not because it's their desire to stay. So they won't be here; they'll be on their own planet because they have their own planets that they come from. So it's more like kicking them out of here.
Well, I've seen the whole damn neighborhood.
Exactly.
Okay.
Go back.
Yeah, exactly. So and this is probably because this is like a harvesting ground between souls that are choosing right hand path or left hand path, and we're at that cusp point of transition, and so there's representation from both sides that come in on a galactic level to basically help herald in that path. You want to go more towards the left side of service to self or service to others, as the Law of One books talk about that philosophy. So there is a positive ascension, there's a negative ascension as well.
I did not know that.
Yeah. This is where the higher negative ETs
Well,
come
how
from.
can you ascend if you're negative?
Well, that's the thing, because on that understanding is that you're basically that there is an ascension or there's an evolution. Let's put it that way. There's an evolution of both right hand, left hand path that can get, and the right hand path or towards unity and service goes up infinity. There's no limitation to it. The path of the negative groups that are about separation, it's kind of like creating a space where they want to explore how far can we take this illusion of separation, and lower ego aspects. And so they basically see the heart chakra as a weakness. They want to exploit the energy.
Yes.
And they're more vampiric, in that sense, parasitic. So their evolution actually goes up to the 6th dimension, or if you want to apply it to the chakras, so like the third eye, which is why you can have the idea of like some of these false light beings, that look like they might be made of light, but they're made of a negative energy.
Well, yeah,
that-
they can
that could
disguise
still-
themselves.
Yes.
But
They're
it's-
shapeshifters, everything.
It's a reflection of their evolution that they've obtained on the dark side. So it's understanding that they have the right to do that, but it's not about infringing on our free will. Of course, they always try to do that, and they want to write in all these little contracts and subtexts, to try to manipulate our back doors and affect us. So we have to be like spiritual lawyers half the time and revoke these contracts.
Alvin is always saying to me, he goes, I had this on me, I got that on me, blah, blah, blah. This came from here. Because I don't understand how they're getting in and stuff like that. They're getting in by just this fear of element that's attached to all these people that are around you.
That's the problem. It's
It's
lack
like
of
a
accountability.
vampire. You invite them into your house, they're going to kill you.
And on a societal level, that's happening because a lot of people aren't taking accountability for their own shadow side. A lot of people aren't taking accountability for their actions, for their karma, and they're just so putting on these blinders and acting like nothing has changed, and just having the same value system of 9 to 5 mentality without really understanding that we're being shaken up on a very deep primordial level.
Sheep.
Exactly. And so that all that unresolved energy and repressed energy of guilt and anger and fear and all patterns are used as a doorway, by these negative organizations and groups to try to thread the energy of negative timelines through people that aren't yet clearing out their own crap, so that we create a regurgitation of the old system.
And the shifting of the timelines, and the twist, and the seeding of the timelines. Seeding is these, for lack of a better word, evil ETs, they leave seeds in your timelines of times gone by. And even generationally, as you cross into those new timelines, you're bringing those seeds with you. So you remove those seeds in all timelines, and they reseeded it in your future. And it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Very difficult to get rid of them. They've been so ensconced in our lives and who we are, all right, that you need to, well, you need to start to wake up. Wake up. Everything you see on that TV is not telling you the truth. That's all manipulated by them, all right? They want to keep you dumbed down. So you become the sheep that you were meant to be in their eyes.
You mean like the fake news?
You are a child of God. God lives in your heart. And that's the chakra he's talking about. He lives here with his angels. Recognize him, recognize who you are, and have your own personal growth into the ascension with God. The God. Not the ones you've been told about, all this other stuff and all this doctrine has been shoved down your throat. You are God. Jesus says it in the Bible, for those of you who are very well Bible read. Didn't I tell you, you are God? When are you going to learn that? If Jesus told you that, then you could take that to the bank. Recognize who you are. Start your ascension now.
Or Krishna or Buddha or many other masters.
That's right. That's right. And they will tell you the same thing. If you go to every single one of these what the heck?
Religions.
Religions. Thank you. I didn't even see his lips move. Anyway, if you go through them, they all have the same story in each one. But mankind has subverted the word. They have subverted the word. Okay? Wake up. Smell the coffee.
That's right.
All right.
It's all right.
Now that I have my serious moment, go ahead.
You got your pulpit time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to sit back. I gotta let that go.
He's so funny.
Okay. Yeah, Steve, hit him some more.
Speaking of timelines, exactly. There are definitely ways to be, that we have to invite the angels and our positive galactic star nations, our families in the star realms, to help us reclaim our sovereignty, both spatially and temporally. Which is what he's talking about, really cleaning out our genetic history of our ancestors
That's right.
and our own soul lineage. Where it's almost like feng shui in a sense, where you want to balance out the chi energy flow in your 8 directions in the feng shui wheel, the bagua wheel, where each area reflects a different part of your life. So the same thing happens on a higher level, where it's kind of like each direction you're facing. One ritual we always do a lot of is we'll call in the archangels into each direction to basically help qualify the elements, right, that make up our being, the air for the mind, the water for the emotions, fire for the spirit, the power, etc. And because with ideas that we need to become more conscious stewards of our own evolutionary process and of the condition of our house, of our temple.
That's
not
right.
just physical, but on an emotional level. A lot of people may have good hygiene physically, but it may be crap when it comes emotionally and mentally, or they may want to spill all their crap on you and not understand why you feel upset about it, especially if you're empathic, and saying, well, so it's like, well, people take actual responsibility for their own energy field and the stuff that they're relaying
exactly
to others, to understand that it's just as important as hygiene, and even more, because it affects us on a bigger level of creating a parameter of conditionality, of conditions of what we think we can create or not create, depending upon if there's so much static noise in the background from other people's crap floating around.
I can't go. I can't go to a ball game anymore. I can't go to a crowded mall. I definitely won't go near Christmas.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Or any of those holidays when they're jammed. I was out with my wife and my family, and I'm walking through the mall, going through the doors, walking up to the next entrance, walking in just to get away from it.
Yeah.
Because the energy around me was just terrible. I said I had to get away from that. And then they see your light, and they, unless you cloak yourself when you're in there.
Sure.
Especially
Especially those type of situations. It's always a challenge. I mean, like living like in New York. I live in Brooklyn and going in the city all the time. It's always It's always fascinating just to see like also what the astral weather patterns are like. When you're going out, like how's the energy field around the city. For example, here because it's New York is an epicenter of a major vortex on a planetary level, and it's a major playing ground for a lot of light and dark forces competing for the vortex here in New
They're
York.
battling here, and we're the targets.
Yeah, it's like the
Well,
belly
when
of the
you're
angels
in
and belly
the
of the beast.
presence of crowds and crowds of people, you're going to find a lot of negativity going on.
That's why I get out of there.
That's why you got to get away from it, because
I
it'll
get
bring
out
you
of there.
down.
I can't tell you. She says, what's the matter with you? And it's like I can't breathe. I have to get out of there.
Can't breathe. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that too.
Yeah.
The mall is tough.
Ooh.
Expanded.
Oh yeah, the mall or
Times
anywhere,
Square.
Times
a
Square, yeah.
crowded
Times
movie
Square.
theater.
We were in the city.
Huh?
We were in the city.
Yeah.
and we were in the heart of that Bermuda Triangle called 7th Avenue down to where the ball comes down.
Times Square.
Man, I'm telling you, there is every kind of
I was there
way out there.
recently,
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, it's also why we do a lot of work outside in the warm weather, like in the park, and like Cleopatra's Needle in Central Park. I do the full moon and like new moon meditations there, and we do like sun
Where's
meditations.
where's
in Riverside.
the obelisk? Is that up by the library?
It's
Like
in
literally
Central Park.
79th and 5th, like right behind the Metropolitan Museum of Art on 79th.
Okay. Oh, behind the
That's
the
where the
MoMA.
obelisk is?
Yeah, the obelisk or Cleopatra's Needle. Yeah,
Obelisk.
It's 3,300 years old. Yeah, very powerful.
Came from Egypt.
Monument. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the original pillars that marked the entrance of the city
Well,
of the
tell
sun.
them that you do this so they
Yeah.
know if they
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I'd basically do it for like full moon, new moon activations. They're like guided channel meditations and planetary grid work. A lot of powerful work we also do to help clean out the energies that are around the area and help amplify it. So we'll also do some work to try to take down some of these like negative grids that some of these darker coven groups have tried to have established at different points that were designed to siphon energy from people.
The webs.
The webs, and so this is nice little maybe a little sideways entrance into the original topic here.
It was just a cheap ploy.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, there we go. No, definitely, because I mean, we talked about also in prior shows when I was discussing what was that show we had with you a few times, like going into the shadow. I forgot what was something.
Shadow
exploring the
Governments.
shadow. But
Shadow
it was the title
Governments.
for your show though. I
Well,
forgot.
it was
Exploring the shadow or something. But if you go
Yeah.
back on YouTube channel, you'll basically see a couple shows I did with Aldefina and with Tom
Well,
here.
just explain to them
Yeah.
this web. You know, you always hear commercials.
Well, yeah, we'll go
don't
into
have your name on the dark web. That's a crock. That's just. There is a web out there, and it is not a good one. Now, tell
Yeah,
them
it's
what
different. Yeah,
about.
we're not talking about the internet. It goes back to the idea of like the matrix idea, where there's like a grid of or like a web or like a net-like structure that has existed in different capacities around the planet for many millennia. There have been different extraterrestrial groups that have worked in tandem with different people that have been in these positions of power for the ancient bloodlines, different secret societies that have done active ritual over different sacred sites in order to try to amplify their negative intention or their negative broadcasts, and they would do it cyclically on different holidays in order to create a building of the mass of that energy wave. Like it's like building like a harvest. It's building propensity or momentum for like a standing wave of energy through time. Both light and dark groups do that, and that's why you do things at equinoxes, solstices, lunar cycles, because it's like a farmer knowing when to plant the seeds and when to water it. You don't just want to overdrown the seeds either. That
That's
it has
right.
to happen in a balanced manner. So the same way that these particular dark groups, I mean, we talked about this before, that one of the original negative groups that had to do with was like an octopi extraterrestrial group was back in Atlantis, and they're some of them are still around and can be quite annoying. I've seen them pop up in different clients. I've had some harassment with them as well, and they had set up like a global grid, which was almost like an octopi looking like grid on the etheric level with its tentacles going out.
Tentacles,
and
yeah.
Pretty disgusting. It's kind of like the Cthulhu type story, or like the archonic type of energies, like the Leviathan, which is mentioned in the Bible, like
Leviathan,
the
yes,
beast in the ocean.
yes.
You have references in different historical things that goes into that idea. But I just mentioned as a side note, we talk about that on the past shows. Now, one of the things that was also going on is that we also talked about the Temple of Set group. Set was one of the individuals in the Egyptian mythology who killed Osiris, and was trying to get power over the planet. And like, as I mentioned before, a lot of these deities were really higher dimensional extraterrestrials on
That's
light
what
and
they
dark
were.
sides, that have had major stake, like the Anunnaki. But Anunnaki are just one group that we don't want to get caught up in these typecasting. A lot of people get too caught up in one group and they overfixate on either reptilians or Anunnaki and think that that's everything there is.
That's all there is. yeah.
Exactly. It's the same way people get caught up in like, oh, it's only the Rockefellers, only the Rothschilds. It's like, no, there's other families involved in
That's
controlling
right.
the
The
planet.
Bushes, and a few others.
Some powerful Italian families behind the Vatican that are really at the top of that echelon.
That's right.
They were like the continuation of the Roman Empire. That
It
a
is
real
the
problem.
Roman
It's a
Empire.
continuation of it. Yeah, they were part of the bloodline of that.
He lives behind a
Yeah.
wall.
Oh, that's the gray pope and the black pope, they call it, which is behind the white pope,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
the public
yeah.
figure,
Yeah.
head of the Jesuit families. And that's a little side note, but you understand that these families think long term. They think over periods of centuries, and millennia. It's not just about.
Well, they're not
the
even
next-
going to be here.
Yeah. Well, but the point is that
Well,
they're losing now.
This physiology
Yeah,
is not
well,
going to
we've
be
been-
here, but
Right.
you're going to be here.
We've intercepted the game in many lifetimes, so it's just right now we're at the
Yeah.
end of the big soap opera.
That's it.
When we want to subscribe to.
And
the,
we
to
don't
the-
want no more
Yeah.
reruns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So part of the original web that we were dealing with, I talked about maybe about a year ago or two on the show, was that there's a dark it looked like a dark spider web of energy, a black web, that this group from Orion that was connected to Set.
Yeah.
There are different like negative extraterrestrials there that they basically have set up
like a galactic dark web network, which literally looks like a dark web of energy that they've spun over different planets to basically harvest energy and keep consciousness and control and
The spiders.
and to be a representation of their empire. Of,
The spiders.
literally, and so like on Set's homeworld in Orion, there's some really nasty looking, very giant, tall, like black, almost obsidian-looking spiders, a high screeching sound, very nasty. Don't want to encounter those things.
And you thought you got scared from watching Friday the 13th?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a little bit like Stranger Things on a real level. Let's put it that way.
No, a lot of this stuff
Getting
didn't
all these,
exist.
like, yeah.
On the
You're
astral
seeing them,
level,
as you're saying
they
that.
come in though, and because the problem is that you have these grounded covens, for example, in this case that work with
Wow.
Set, and they'll do a ritual to bring in these dark spider astral entities from the higher realms to ground them in the physical realm, and they'll do human sacrifice, child sacrifice as part of the offering to the dark web in a sense, you
Wonderful.
know, and it's like feeding like the blood of the beast basically for their system. It's like
Yeah,
they're-
that's
it's like,
it.
and literally, and it connects to the idea of like black goo or this black substance that they use to kind of that it's like a supercharged like negative energy substance that they
Yeah.
can mold into structures that
And-
are used to harvest energy and as well as attack people, you know, and charge them up like almost like a drug.
Well, what
you
it
know.
is it's like
Heavy
their
stuff.
power
Yeah.
grid. Their power grid to
Exactly.
attack us when we put them out in the forum like we are now.
Well, and that's it. And the thing is that a lot of us did a lot of work about a year ago, especially on taking down part of that grid, which is also connected to like the tree of death. We've also talked about that, the tree of life. In the Kabbalistic system, there's an opposite of that, the tree of death. Instead of angels, you have demons, and you have like the vices of God instead of the virtues of God. So these a lot of negative groups, a lot of different types of covens will work with harnessing the shadow aspect of the tree of life, which is a tree of death, and also the shadow side of astrology. They want to work with harnessing the shadow aspects of the planets to try to find vulnerability in people's fields. So they'll try to analyze also some people's charts as well to see where they have weaknesses in their personality and
Exactly.
their predispositions, so that they could try to attack them there. So they're very methodical, some of these groups. It's not just like they're very organized, some of them more so than others. And so there was a lot of beings who were working on deconstructing that main dark web around the Temple of Set groups were using. And I met one guy many years ago who broke out of the Illuminati, and he confirmed to me, he said, yeah, the eye of the dollar bill is the eye of Set, and that the Illuminati have whole temples dedicated to Set on different parts of the planet.
Yeah.
And that's like the deeper secret of groups. They're the public. There's actually a public temple of Set. They have a website, and if you go on their website, they have a lot of stuff they put on there, which they literally talk about different orders, like Order of Leviathan, Order of Beelzebub, or Knights of the Black Flame. These are all things we've encountered on a higher level that when we look on their website, they're pretty blatant about their dark organizational structure. And that's just the public side of it. So the other group that we've been dealing with more past year, that first started when I went to Paris about a year ago, before all these revolution things were happening, I could feel the energy building up in Paris. It was heavy energy. This really nasty, like that part of that dark web
Yeah,
energy.
with
They
all
were
that
trying to
stuff
reboot
was
it back
happening,
then. And there was other groups of negativities that were coming from Southern Cross, the constellation called Southern Cross.
Southern Cross,
They're
yeah.
very important to talk a little about because they've been really underplayed, and we need to give them a little more press before I go into the other part. I'll talk a little bit about them. But there were two groups from Southern Cross, and that constellation you see more in the Southern Hemisphere. It's actually on the flags of Australia and New Zealand government, which is interesting. And there's also in Brazil, they have a chivalry
their
group.
flag?
It's on their flag, the constellation. So
how
it
about
shows
that?
there was some infiltration going on there.
Well,
It's
somebody
like-
knows something about
yeah,
something.
and because it forms like a cross, but it's like the opposite of the positive cross. It's like the Antichrist cross. It's like the dark cross of like lower Christianity versus the cross of resurrection. So the Southern Cross groups, they work a lot on harnessing the shadow aspects of Christianity and like the demonic infiltration, say, of the Vatican and other groups.
Demonic
you know,
things, it's so
you know.
like low energy.
Of course, but
But they use them to plague us.
of course, exactly.
Yeah.
And so there were two main groups in Southern Cross. One of them looks very humanoid, but they work with their set counterparts in Orion to kind of harvest energy from people
Isn't
in
it all
groups.
part of like Anubis and all of them?
Well, no, Anubis is good, but there was a shadow side where they were trying to enslave the archetype of Anubis, which was connected to the constellation Sirius. And Sirius B, which is another dark group that we've been dealing a lot with, they have their own little human covens too. Because another individual I knew who broke out of Illuminati, he confirmed also that one of the main bloodlines for the Illuminati families is from Sirius B. And Sirius A is the good group, where Isis energy was connected with Sirius A, as well as with the Pleiades on Venus. But the group from Sirius B has been another big player behind the scenes. Like everyone wants to say, oh, it's like the Draco reptilians that are part of the Illuminati.
The puppet
But it's like, yeah,
master. They're showing me a puppet guy
Exactly.
doing this, marionettes.
that's basically a part of the Syrian B group. They're very close to like the Anunnaki vibe. But if you want to give a visualization, if those viewers who know about Star Trek or watch Star Trek, if you remember like the picture of like the Romulans.
Yes.
So if you picture the Romulans mixed with like the Roman Empire, mixed with the CIA. That's basically their vibe of their culture, but on a negative 4D ascendant level. So they're very highly scientific, very very strategic. They like to be behind the scenes. They're involved in a lot of these hidden bloodline activities of manipulating events and stuff. They're losing power too here, but it's just that they're one of the players that's been kind of hiding behind the veil and blaming other people for their actions.
What you're hearing a lot of high echelon information, okay? And I know for a lot of people, you're not going to understand it, or it's just not going to sink in. And I'm not saying that you should believe whatever you want to believe, but however, I think that you should go to the YouTube site for Stephen and listen to some of these things and really start to form your own opinions, all right? There's a lot of stuff here
There's a lot out
that
there.
people don't see.
Yeah.
They just go through the motions of their life, work all day, make this, come home, have dinner, watch a little boob tube, and go to sleep. That is not what you are. They want you to be that.
So what could these people do that are watching that are just like,
Sure.
wow, that they're listening to you, maybe don't understand
Sure.
totally, but are saying, this, I believe this.
Yeah, no, I
What
mean,
can I do?
half the battle is information, right, and
Yeah.
understanding and like having
Okay.
like discernment, because they rely on deception, they rely on twisting truth.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Discernment.
Yeah.
That's a gift from God that's been given to you that you'll need to tap in and learn how to discern real truth from nonsense. That's the problem with young today. They're being bombarded with
my
all
God,
this
yeah.
nonsense through
And
our
they believe in
educational
it.
systems.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
believe it hook,
The
line, and
young-
sinker
yeah, the
because
young- the-
he's a professor. Oh, he's an idiot.
Or they touch
Okay.
the buttons of like the entitlement and like the snowflake
right.
aspect of the
Yes, yes.
generation.
That's
where
right.
They, where they feel
That's right.
victimized by everything and they want to like get validation in different ways that are not healthy.
Well, yeah, it's a trend, and then,
Yeah.
it's definitely a diversion.
I mean,
Yes,
it
it is.
all starts with the heart, right? So it's like a lot of us are like incarnate to be different. We're all a lot of us are star people here, and the thing is, a lot of star people are star seeds, who are incarnated beings from higher planets that are here to help raise the vibration of the planet as well as their own individual path and help the Earth. Is that a lot more star people need to kind of get on the bandwagon of like picking up their swords of light and not just placating and only thinking about, oh, it's only just love, let's focus on love only. It's like love and will together, right? To be able to transmute something, you have to be able to know where to send the love to help transmute that negativity into something more positive. So if we're only sticking our head, I call it like spiritual ostrich syndrome.
That's right.
Where a lot of people in the New Age movement, spiritual movement, don't want to deal with anything negative, or it's, oh, I can't deal with the news, I can't deal with that. It's like, well, that's why we still have it, because people haven't done enough of their own accountability to transmute and be like beacons of light that we're supposed to be for the higher
That's
realms, and be able to pierce the clouds with our higher light of our heart and our swords of will, and working with the angels meditating regularly, doing practices where you are more of a clear conduit for the divine light to come through you, so that you can be an agent of action of change. And whatever field you're in, whatever form of service, whatever love you're doing, whatever compassion you're doing, is important to magnify it and also understand that we have more power than we realize. That's why they're going overboard with a lot of these agendas to control us, is because they're terrified that when enough people in the masses wake up to the fact that we are here as sovereign, divine, galactic beings to bring about the new reality, their whole gig is going to be up. And that we need to really just say enough is enough and draw the line in the sand.
You think we'll
literally.
get to that point?
100%. No, we're at 100%.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it starts with, it can happen as fast as people really pick up that energy of intention
Well, that's why
and
I'm
like really
trying to-
direct that, like I said, being
That's
the
why I'm
Excalibur,
trying, yeah.
grounding your pillar of light into the earth, really connecting to the new earth, not the old idea, the victimized, violated Mother Earth, because that's also part of the leftist propaganda that's being exploited to
Yeah.
try to it's of course it's important to heal pollution and heal the technologies that hurt the earth, but there's an over focus on like the bleeding heart syndrome that starts to
right.
That's right.
distort actuality, and what's happening, and it becomes tailspin for political agendas.
Well, yeah.
Yep, yep.
And
We
so
shouldn't build this
100%.
building here or this oil line because the purple-spotted yak, all right, is endangered. It is not endangered. That's just
Yeah,
tree-hugging ecological guys from some college out there in
so funny.
on the
God knows where.
But I mean,
The West,
but on a higher level,
Question
the whole
everything,
nature
too.
of the oil industry is ridiculous. We shouldn't even be using oil anymore. We have free
That's
energy.
right, we
have
shouldn't.
quantum energy. We have different technologies. I have scientists that are involved in stuff that have stuff working as well that
We
people
have
have known over the
cold
years.
fusion. Cold fusion.
So many technologies that have been covered up, and the problem is that we need to push for disclosure on a grand scale for the governments and lobbyists to be like, no, we want everybody to release. And you see little tidbits of it in the media where they start releasing certain information. Navy articles recently talking about UFOs and pilots seeing
That's right.
UFOs, and the small programs they talk about. Advanced aerospace threat center. But all they're doing is releasing little tidbits of controlled streams of information to test the public's reaction to see, is the public going to want to stand up to actually claim our right to know that we have contact with extraterrestrials. We have technology that is hundreds of years ahead of time we have now that could solve all of our problems if we let it out. But instead we're being drip fed this crappy technology that's fake green, and the fake solution instead of the real solution. So we need to claim that we're being fed up. We need to really take that energy and push it towards real environmentalism,
Well,
not just like, oh, it's only about global warming. No, it's
No.
about we need to release the technology that can actually solve problems and actually liberate us so we can connect to our families in a higher level that want to be here, and also demand that the information about our origin, not be withheld from us, and that the treaties be revealed.
That's right.
But it starts personally with your own ability to make your connection to your own higher self, to your star nations. Star people are connected on a higher level to your planet of origin. So, there's work I do with people individually with sessions and to help them connect to that as well. That's a big part of my work on a daily level,
That's
that the more we can open up these routes of communication in our auric field, in our Merkaba, to our native origin spots, whether Pleiades, Arcturian, Sirian, all different planets that are here that want to help the Earth, star nations that the indigenous people work with. It's up to us to open up those pathways of light so that our new heart can be activated.
That's right.
And then we can shine through all these different false web structures and burn them up
I see
with much more power.
You mentioned the Merkaba. The Merkaba is the six-sided star of David, okay? That goes up and down your chakra system from center core of Earth right up to the 12D shield, all right? That thing runs like a Cuisinart through your body and removes all the negativity that you absorb, all right? When you awaken, you start awakening first by loving yourself. When you look in the mirror, you love that person. Don't just be status quo, I fix my hair, I go out, I'm who I am. Okay, no, it's bull, all right? Love yourself. Anyone who wronged you, forgive them for real, okay? Tell people you love them, all right? Spread the love. If you think that love, is a simple thing to say, that can't possibly change that. You want to know something? It can. Because the opposite of love, hate, causes all the animosities and wars in this world and all the problems in this world.
And we really focus on the positive timeline that you can envision individually what the future can look like as a coherent love-based society. If love is integrated in all of our systems of
That's right.
of not just the economy, but on technology level, conscious level, how that society look to you. This is the future that we're bringing in, and we need to all focus on creating that clear trajectory in time, because when we don't do that, these darker organizations are
Take
trying to,
advantage of
are
it.
just trying to exploit us and create more fear so that we loop back into the old pattern of thinking that no longer serves us.
That's right.
And one of the I want to mention, because we're a little on time, one of the groups I really want to mention, because I haven't talked about them before.
Oh, you noticed that we're low on time.
Yeah, finally. Finally, flies. You're speaking of
The
time
guy can
stuff.
talk all this scientific stuff.
Oh my
I
God.
noticed we're on time.
Got to go out there.
Okay.
There's one of the, so like I said, people watching my videos will understand more of my dramas I had with people in the NSA and DIA and stuff. But there's a base upstate in New York where I had been taken to back in the 90s, and they were a continuation of like the Montauk Project, where they were doing a lot of work on like time travel work, parallel reality projects, a lot of advanced like mind control stuff on children and people. Very messed up things that these shadow groups are doing, and General Electric is involved in that facility.
Not surprised.
The NSA, DIA, and DARPA are the three main agencies. But one of the other, and I mean, I confronted one of the guys who set me up for that abduction. I found him on Facebook recently again too. He actually has a profile. But the point is, he admitted to me originally about him setting me up many years ago. And he admitted many more things to me that I can't go into right now, but on one of the other videos on YouTube I talk about it. But one thing I discovered very recently, literally very recently, because all the shamanic and psychic work I do, like I do a lot of work out of body in the dream plane, like a lot of work on
So
tracking.
do
And I do a lot of my own remote viewing of these groups and agencies, and we'll have other groups where we spy on them because they spy on us. So we have to be able to do the same thing to get more intel for the light. So we do a lot of stuff. Some things I can talk about, some things we have to not talk about. Because
Well, some things are not knowledge yet.
yeah, well, and some things I also get a lot of attacks and there's been a lot of harassment the past few months. So,
You think?
So, oh my God, yeah. And so one of the groups I finally was able to identify that's been involved in a lot of this timeline manipulation, and also they have advanced alien technology that's involved in creating. I call it almost like an astral 4D printer, where they basically create these thought form structures that they can use to
They use the
send to
holographs
people.
on us.
It's a variation of a holographic type of technology where they create different constructs and project it to your body to try to block your kundalini or harvest your energy or take you somewhere else that you shouldn't be, time-wise, energetic-wise, to try to displace you so you're not as effectual. And this one agency that's involved in that it's
Come
called
here.
BTI.
Something's right in between us.
I'm just saying the name, not focus.
No, it's touching me
I know,
right
gotcha,
now.
gotcha, okay. So this particular agency is called the Bureau of Time Intelligence,
Wow, that's good.
or BTI, Bureau of Time Intelligence. They're one of the most covert agencies. You're not going to really find information about them yet, but they have their hands in a lot of different places. They definitely have an office in Washington, D.C. They have a big base in Nevada that we're able to track, which is between Las Vegas and L.A.
Area
They're-
52.
It's another section. Yeah, they're involved in the base upstate New York, which is near Norwich, New York. It's like Bowman Lake. That was the area I've been taken to. So I wanted to just put them out there because we need to expose more of these covert groups, and their agenda. Because again, it's the more you know what we need to counter, the more we can ask the angels and guides and our higher self to develop solutions to strengthen our immunity on a spiritual level, emotional level, so that once we understand that it's just like somebody pushing against you and you push them back, if you're not understanding that that people are being exploited in more subtle ways than we even have understood, then it's hard for us to understand where we need to put the anti-malware to that. It's like the way they have different viruses that appear
Funny you said
computer-wise.
that word malware.
Yeah, it's a little like
because
spiritual
that's-
malware,
That's
energetic
what they're
malware.
using against us.
And you need to develop a deficient counter remedy. But if you're not aware that sneaky program snuck into your email, then you're not aware that you need to run that software to counter it. So the more we can explore and expose these groups and their shadowy technologies, agendas, the more we can develop counter remedies to understand that the more they try to divide us, it gives us an opportunity to reunite us.
Richie, what do we
and
got?
to bring that love and unity in places
So
we
it's
didn't
working
realize.
the opposite.
We got 5
Yes,
minutes.
but the problem is that it's created delays and it's created
Okay.
stress in between. But the more we wake up to the fact that we can do a lot more stuff to counter them on a higher level than we even imagine. It just takes us far smaller number of light workers to counter huge numbers of dark workers.
That's
And
right.
which
Well, that's
is-
because light always overrides darkness.
that's the point. But the problem
And
is that
God
they got
always
cocky.
wins.
Of course he
Because
does.
they got cocky with controlling their empire for so long.
Well, they
that's
were
the-
given the sovereignty over the earth. Satan was given sovereignty over the earth. And that's been for what? 10,000 years, maybe more.
Well, part of it,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
And if you think this is the first go around on this planet, guess again. Okay. Anyway, we're running short on time. Let's wrap this up. I'll start with
Well,
you,
you still
Christine.
have more than 5 minutes.
We have
left.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
I just want to get these last minute things out. Then I have to do the
Oh,
other
okay.
stuff.
All right.
We'll keep
Well,
going, we
yes.
keep
You should know.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, I
I know.
wanna
I
mention
know. I've been
just-
doing this for
Wait,
almost
wait, wait,
20
wait, wait.
years.
Yeah, just
We
real
got
quick.
4 minutes. Make
Real
this
quick
quick.
about
Go
what we
ahead.
started doing this past week. One of the
Okay.
other darker web things that we're working on clearing now was a negative timeline web that we had discovered that was being put over different major cities and different locations. And as a web, this was different. It was constructed different negative timeline energies that were put up esoterically, technologically by different human covens and different negative ETs. Southern Cross, Negative Orion, Praying Mantis Group. A few others were involved.
Oh, yeah.
Were involved in
Praying
some
Mantis.
insectoid ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was trying to
Probably
create.
the most intelligent.
It was
of
basically
those.
harvesting energy from people to feed these little dark spiders that were spawning, and they were creating this false light, pretty webs around different areas in the city, like fractal mirrors that reflected like negative aspects of yourself and your past, so that if you get into it, like you would then perpetuate that cycle. So we're doing a lot of work, and we need to send more angels and guides. Higher Athena energy was coming in, a lot of galactic beings of love and light were coming in. Father Earth and the Egyptian
Pleiadians.
systems called Geb, Pleiadians, Arcturians are coming in. We need to call them in more to help us deconstruct any residue of these webs. So we did a lot of work recently in helping that to get transmuted. But it's people being aware that if you're feeling off and feeling negative and it's not your usual pattern, don't just take it for granted. Really center yourself, really ground, connect to other like-minded people so we can be able to expose, because they keep trying new ways to try to loop us. So it's important that we use the heart and our third eye to see through their BS, so that way we can stop it from expanding.
Stop the deception.
Well, where do you think this is all going to end up in the long run?
Well, I mean, it's
Will
all.
it end up where these people are eliminated and everybody just goes on living peaceful lives?
Well, with the ascension process for sure, but there has to be a lot of exposure and disclosure in society in a bigger level, so that way one of the dangers is this 5G technology is also kind of scary because it's part of the more grounded aspect of a dark web network to try to electromagnetically, isolate people, sequester people. Because as the energies intensify, all they're doing is trying to create new things to keep us disconnected from the new energy. So
Right.
we need to be
Right,
even more powerful and sovereign to be able to say, no, this new
Okay.
energy transcends all the technology. So it's reclaiming our sovereignty in the electromagnetic spectrum and the microwave spectrum. All the different technologies are using different spectrums, right, to try to relay information, both constructively or negatively. So in our meditation, we need to understand that our chakras are not just 7 colors of the rainbow, it's the in-between colors. We need to focus on the spaces in between the
between,
chakras,
yes.
in between time,
Yes.
and reclaim our sovereignty there, because
Yes.
that's an area that they've been trying to co-opt. So really filling up all those in-between spaces, in-between directions, in infrared, ultraviolet, really putting that in the intention setting. that
Pulling
These
light
are
into the-
realms
yeah.
which beings exist in, and we need to have
That's-
a clear line of light through all those spectrums.
It's called getting into the gap.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, we're going to wrap this up. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Antonio's Bookstore in Tauntonville for our feast tonight, and Aardvark Pest Control in Great Kills. Also, I'd like to thank our crew, Christine, who happens to be up here. She's usually running around somewhere.
Yeah.
And Richie and Tracy. I see Bobby. I see Mary. That was Romper Room, wasn't it? Okay. Brian in the booth. Give him a wave. Brian in the booth.
So funny.
Okay. All right. And I hope
Kenny?
this has been somewhat enlightening to you. I would recommend that you do go on YouTube and see Stephen's videos and start to understand that if you think that this is all there is, wow, you are really lost.
Lots
Also
that
do the
doesn't
sessions on
meet
the phone
eye.
too,
Okay.
and in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Christine, anything quick?
Oh, just
Just
hope everybody got a lot out of this because this has been very interesting.
All right.
Thank you.
Jojo.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you. Thank you for all that
Thank you.
information. I just think that everyone
Did you get it all?
should- Yeah, I just think
There'll be a
that
test
everyone
on this
should
after the
work-
show.
Work on themselves.
But
and
work on yourself.
on-
Try to be the best person
and
you
they
can
have
be.
to Really.
It starts with you. It does
Yeah.
start with you.
That's right.
Take the first step.
Definitely.
Realize that don't be sheep,
Yeah.
even in organized,
Accept
Situations.
the negative part of you too, the negative dark side.
Yeah.
That's very important in this, in the negative emotion.
Okay,
Past
everybody
life
wake goodbye
integration
now.
with that, yep.
It's a kumbaya moment. Everybody wake.
It's so funny.
Yay.
Namaste.
Gee, a little louder, please. Yeah, I left my hearing aid home.
That was good.
So funny.
It was fun.
Time always
Well-
flies though, too fast.
Yeah, well, even when you're having it.